You're listening to We Deepen Media.
This episode of Deepen with Christina is sponsored by We Deepen Experiences. Have you heard the term biohacker? It's somebody who seeks to enhance their lives by optimizing their bodies. They do this in the areas of lifestyle, nutrition, supplementation, and even philosophy. Biohacking is a ginormous topic. It's something many people have devoted their entire lives to exploring. If any of this interests you, join us at Dave Asprey's 8th Annual Biohacking Conference from Thursday, September 15th to Saturday, September 17th in Beverly Hills, California. You get engaging keynotes, panels, breakout sessions, and hands-on demonstrations to help you better understand your own biology. This year, Sean, Derek, and I will be leading the UU Dating Experience on Friday night at the conference. We'll guide 200 participants who are currently single through a series of interactive activities designed to foster connection and accelerate closeness. Go to wedeepen.com to learn more and register for the 8th Annual Biohacking Conference. Use promo code WeDeepen for special pricing. The 8th Annual Biohacking Conference is now on wedeepen.com. I hope to see you there. That's what's back on the We Deepen calendar. Unleash themed Life Reinvented is Friday, September 23rd through Sunday, September 25th. It's overnight together, so bring a tent, or there are glamping and deluxe ones available for you at checkout. Unleash is my most favorite experience. You hear me rave about it on this podcast. The founder, Yadi Iksa, is a favorite guest on the show. For a quick fix about why I rave about Unleash, just go see the videos and the photos at wedeepen.com. Unleash is a substance-free 3-day guided transformational dance journey designed to activate your fullest self-expression and creative power. You see people releasing limiting blocks and leaving feeling as though they discovered more about themselves. Go to wedeepen.com to learn more about Unleash. Use promo code WeDeepen for special pricing. I hope to see you there. Unleash. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Deepen with Christina. I'm your host, Christina Weber, founder of We Deepen and Feminine Weapon, and also a certified professional love coach for people who want to elevate their relationships, resolve conflict, bring greater joy to the dating journey, expand their networks, and discover more about themselves. You can now book private sessions at wedeepen.com/privates. This podcast follows my entrepreneur journey with We Deepen and shines light on the human connection industry. If you enjoy it, please follow, like, subscribe, rate the show on whatever platform you're listening to. It helps more people find it and supports me in continuing to host it. In this episode, you meet Jessica Encell Coleman. Jessica is a love activist, empowerment educator, and the founder-creator of The Magic of Human Connection, a transformational workshop she has facilitated for over 30,000 participants at some of the world's top events, conferences, and festivals, such as Summit Series, Wonderlust, South by Southwest, Esalen, Dave Asprey's Biohacking Conference, and Burning Man. Participants can be seen leaving Jessica's experiences roaring with laughter, smiling ear to ear, beaming with joy, immensely connected. Many describe it as life-changing. Now, this is personal for me too, because I have experienced the magic of human connection a couple times, and I can vouch for that feeling of being lit up inside your entire body, of really feeling what love is. And also when you leave it, you are magnetizing. If you think of radiance, of when you go out in the world and you just notice people that have this type of radiance to them, that is like the conveyor belt of the magic of human connection. Now, Jessica doesn't do much talking there. It's more about you connecting with others. And if you have any type of social anxieties, This place is perfect for you because you're guided the entire time and it all is connected. You're connecting to everybody around you in the most authentic way. Also, when We Deepen promotes the magic of human connection, it sells out so quickly. If you happen to be listening to this before June 26th of 2022, there is an experience on the calendar at wedeepen.com for you to go and register and check this out in the Los Angeles area. Now, if you're interested in booking a Magic of Human Connection for your company or a conference or festival you have coming up after listening to this show, please reach out to me and I can help you with booking the Magic of Human Connection. Now, before we jump in today's special show, I want to remind you of two other podcasts that people are loving on the We Deepen Network. Political Hope by Indy Rishi and Elevate to Legendary by Dr. Nikki are both linked from wedeepen.com. Head over to subscribe to the show so you can listen to them after this episode of Deepen with Christina. Now, please meet the founder of the Magic of Human Connection, Jessica Encell Coleman.
Thank you so much for that beautiful, beautiful intro. And I'm so happy to be here. And I'm so excited to get to jam with you on this podcast. And my intention for our call is just that anyone who listens to this is like totally uplifted, totally nourished, totally inspired. So Christina, I'm so happy to be here with you. And for everyone who is listening to this podcast, thank you for being here with me and Christina and for sharing this moment with us. And I hope that our conversation just totally uplifts you.
Yay. This is perfect. Okay. So let's jump right into it. I know we've talked about chaptering this podcast in a series of 3 questions. What's your zone of genius? How's your love life? And why do you do what you do? But I think when you answer the question, because we can start with that question of what's your zone of genius, but what I'm also really craving to hear is the backstory.
Yes.
And I imagine those two are linked. Your zone of genius and your backstory must be linked in some way.
They must be. Let's dive in.
Yes.
So, the backstory is that I've the pre-creation of Magic of Human Connection backstory is that I have always been so fascinated by like what I would consider the core subjects of life. So when we go to traditional school, the core subjects are like English and a foreign language and math and science and all things that I actually love. Like I love school and I love learning. But to me, those are not the core subjects. To me, the core subjects, I've always thought of them as like, one, how do we take great care of ourselves? So how do we take great care of our body and our mind? Like our mind is this incredible, like complex, magical, but like super powerful, like heavy machinery almost that I feel like everyone needs to know how to operate. And our bodies are like these miraculous gifts that to me, it's so important to take great care of. It's where our energy and our like life force flows through our bodies. So to me, like taking care of your body and your mind is a core subject. And then how to relate to other people, like everyone has relationships with other people, family, friends, coworkers. And so to me, like great relating is a core subject. And so like, even though like I'm not putting down math at all or history at all, like they're amazing, but they're not applicable in everyday life for everyone. So I was always so curious, like, okay, why am I learning these things? But then I'm actually going through life needing to know how to take care of my body to feel good, to take care of my mind to feel good, to have great relationships. So those are the first 2 core subjects, taking care of yourself and then having great relationships. And I always thought the third core subject was how do we take great care of our planet? So that to me, I've always found like I've considered those to be the 3 core subjects. And so for whatever reason, I don't know, just the combination of my life experiences has put me in a position where I was always so interested in how do we as humanity like excel and create mastery in those core subjects. And so that was my curiosity. And I was able, through my own personal journey, I was able to learn a lot about taking care of the earth. And I got to work on permaculture farms in India. I got to go to the Amazon in the middle of the rainforest and be with an amazing indigenous tribe there. I got to live in an eco-village in India when I was 20. It was an incredible experience. And so I learned a lot about how do we take care of the earth. And that was new. Like when I went to school, sustainability wasn't a major at the time. So I created my own major around sustainability, but it was accessible. And then, so that earth part was accessible, but not like now sustainability is like so mainstream. And then taking care of oneself, so the body, mind, spirit, I could find a lot of that in personal development. So I could fulfill the curiosity for those core subjects. But then when I wanted to learn about relating, I could find like Tantra and authentic relating. And I was like, okay, those are both fantastic, but I'm just looking for like, how do you, like you said, like with the people in the grocery store, with your family, with someone you meet on the street, or just humanity as like a global society, how do we like excel in that relational space? So that was this one that like, it was one of the 3 core subjects I was interested in, but the one I could find out like the least about in the way that I want to learn about it. And I would take classes, I would go to workshops, I would read books, I would do experiential sessions, and I would find people that maybe like hinted at a little thing here or there that like almost dipped the toes into that relational space that I was wanting to explore, but I couldn't find classes on it or like people that really taught it the way I wanted. And so I went to Burning Man for the first time when I was like 23 or 24. And it was, aside from being like the most amazing experience, I was looking for classes like this. Because, you know, when you look through like the what, when, where in the Burning Man guide, there's everything. Like I remember there was like, you know, like a kink workshop next to like a flatbread making workshop next to comedy improv. Like there's just everything under the sun, but I couldn't even find the relational classes there. And I was like, I had this weird moment where I was like, is no one like relating to other people is one of the most important skill sets we can have to have a fulfilling life and to have a harmonious society. Like it's such an essential skill. And I had this moment where I realized I don't think anyone's teaching the class that I'm looking for. And it was totally shocking because to me it would be the most obvious class, but I wanted to find classes where you could practice and learn how to relate to other people in ways that brought out the most love, the most joy, the most fulfillment, and made that connection the most empowering and uplifting experience it could be. And I couldn't find that. So I started piecing it together myself and experimenting with friends, experimenting socially. When I would be with a group of people, I'd say, hey, let's try this or let's try that to try and elevate the experience of everyone being together. And, you know, I would just notice, like, if people are together organically, a little bit of connection happens. Like, if you have a group of people together for an hour or for a day or for a week or even for, you know, years at a company, without a certain catalyzing force, that group of people will only hit like 10% of their potential connection capacity. And so I just would always, for whatever reason, that was something that was apparent to me. So I would always be observing that and always be playing with ways to kind of bridge that gap between the connection that was being experienced by people, but the actual potential for connection that I could see was there. And so, okay, so this is a very long answer, but this is the backstory. So with that curiosity and with, you know, just always being so interested in learning and growth and personal development and empowerment, I would experiment with people. And this was as I was graduating college and looking for what do I want to do in the world. And I had one criteria, which was I want to do something that lights people up. That was like my one criteria. I want to do something that has a positive impact in the world and that lights people up. And I had heard this talk about free squares. And the talk said that a free square is something that you're so good at that you don't actually realize it's one of your superpowers or one of your unique gifts because it's so natural to you that it just is so effortless. But when you can find out what your free squares are, it's a really great indicator of something that you might have to bring to the world or one of your unique gifts that you have to share. And so I heard this talk and I was looking out for my free squares, and the woman in the talk said, one great way to know your free squares is to study what do the people around you ask you about. Like do people ask for your advice on a certain topic, or do people say, hey, how are you always so whatever blank, you know? For me, like people would know. So anyways, that's a way to find your free squares. What do people ask you? So I started noticing that people would comment on how I would interact socially, especially with new people. And I had this one great experience with my friend Presence is his Burning Man name, and my Burning Man name is All In, and that's also our camp names. We went to this amazing place called Camp Grounded, where you can't say your age, you can't say your work, and you can't say your real name, and you can't have any electronics. And so that's where I met Presence. But other people probably know Presence because his name is Tristan Harris, and so he is one of the lead people in The Social Dilemma, and he's just such an inspiring person. So Presence and I one day went for a walk through San Francisco, and then we saw each other several months later at Burning Man. And I said, Presence, and he said, All In. And I was like, it's so good to see you. And he was like, All In. I haven't done anything like that walk we did together. Like, since I've seen you, I haven't done anything like that walk. And that was this really like light bulb moment for me, because I thought that was a normal walk. And so I was like, what are you talking about? We went for a walk. And he was like, no, like I took my accordion, like you were like, bring your accordion. And we were playing music in the street for people. And we met those people from Brazil, and then we danced with those kids. And we did all these social interactions in public where we were like free and expressed and making connections in public. And so I was like, wow, Presence is, I just think so highly of him. He's such an amazing, inspiring person, and his life is so interesting that I was like, if that was a unique moment for him, this is definitely pointing to one of my free squares. So that was a real light bulb for me that, oh, one of my free squares is like moving through the world with playfulness, with creativity, and including the people around me, even if I don't know them, treating people like best friends and creating connection. And so through his reflection and through one other thing that happened, which was friends in LA who had an event series that would feature different speakers, they said, hey, Jess, would you, instead of just facilitating things after the event series, would you run it one time? So between that ask from the event series and from Presence reflection, those were two really pivotal moments that highlighted that free square for me. And when I was asked to do that event series, I just got this whole download, and I was like, yeah, it's called Magic of Human Connection. I'm reverse engineering for, a 2-hour experience where people feel like, if I could reverse engineer from the moment people are leaving the session, okay, I want people to be leaving the session like absolutely smiling ear to ear, feeling like the most free, the most alive, the most true to themselves, the most in love with humanity, and the most like fully nourished and loved. What activities, what structure do I need to create for a session to have that effect? And so that was how the Magic of Human Connection was born.
Wow. That was so great, because I don't think I've never heard the full on story myself. And in that moment, I realized even too of how much our interests are so similar around relationships and taking care. So you have to take care of yourself in order to have good relationships with other people. And when we are, I think if we focused on relationships as a society, we could solve all the world's problems. So sustainability, like completely. And as well, I grew up in a household where my parents separated they officially separated when I was about 17, 18. And, but it started, Trouble in Paradise started when I was around 13. And then I had my father, tell me at 17, 18, sit me down on the stairs and tell me that he wasn't in love with my mom anymore. And then later on in my 20s, when I processed that and I'm like so confused, and this had started coming through me, and I was having my own love experiences, and then the dating app started happening, and I was like, what are we doing? Are we just going to swipe on this dating app? And I was just seeing all of the challenges. And then we started to see the rise of kind of like the pickup artist movement, which was a little bit an awkward time. And thank goodness, then people like Esther Perel and Brene Brown and Helen Fisher started speaking up. And there's these, which I'll say like the I don't want to call them elders, but from our perspective, the elders or the seniors in the relationship movement, and you started to be able to see them more clearly. And I was like, fine, yes, like give me all of this information I need to learn, because they neglected this in our educational curriculums, period. I mean, they rarely even talk about sex ed. And then speaking of experiences, I was going to, Dr. Pat Allen would do these first Monday monthly gatherings. And she's, 82 years old and would be doing these live coaching where people would come and they would come with their relationship challenges and she would live coach them. And I remember looking around the room and being like, wow, everybody in here is like over the age of 35. It's like 35 to 70 in the room. It's like finally they got to a place of like, something's not working. Something's not working in relating. And we also just look around and just see so much conflict. So the work that you're doing is so important and so spot on. And so, I can just see that it's intuitive within inside at you, that there's like this journey that, you have this beautiful story. I wasn't like one day I want to wake up and sell relationships and let me create a product to create. There takes a lot of passion and love to do this work. So I love the story. I also will say is, from your Burning Man name of All In and Presence, love the two names. My Burning Man name, I first got to Burning Man in 2018 and a friend, Tanya Connie, had given me the name The Maximizer.
I love it. You still go by The Maximizer? The Maximizer.
I forgot until you had just said it because she was like, you're like maximizing everything here at Burning Man. And it just is such a beautiful place to connect, and even like the festival life and going, and there's people are just so open to connection. One question I'm curious to ask you is if people are, not at a human connection, they don't have access, it's not, thank goodness there's one coming up and there's going to be more coming up, in-person experiences coming back. But how, because I do know people look to you like a coach at times, I imagine you are a coach as well, correct?
So I don't do any one-on-one coaching at the moment. I have in the past, but I shifted my focus to doing group experiences because as much as it's so powerful to do one-on-one coaching, but my real calling is like sharing transformational experiences with as many people as I can. So I shifted my focus into that.
So if somebody then is listening and they can't get access to your one-on-one, but they're curious of like, what tips do you have for people who are wanting to connect with others, but maybe feeling some type of social anxiety or insecurity?
Oh my goodness. Oh, amazing question. So people may have heard this before, but it's really so true. When you shift your focus into what can I contribute versus what can I get, that to me is like one of the magical, like golden operating system upgrades that you can make when you're relating with other people. If you go into a social environment thinking, how can I uplift people? How can I contribute? How can I be a source of empowerment? When you put that focus, it changes your whole orientation. And I feel like that for me is what I personally do if I'm going into a new environment where I feel like, oh, I'm nervous or I don't know anyone. If I go in thinking of almost like I'm in a game or an adventure or a treasure hunt of like, okay, great. Like, how can I be a force for good? Or how can I uplift one person? Or how can I contribute? Because that's fun, not because I'm trying to be accepted or get social approval. I think that trying to get social approval is what, is one of the factors that creates social anxiety. So if you can shift away from trying to need something from other people, but rather coming in with the abundance of who you are and your unique gifts, your unique magic, your unique energy, I find that really helps me. And through leading Magic of Human Connection, the in-person experience, I've led it for over 30,000 people all over the world, people of all ages, all types of people. And that is one of the key frameworks that I guide people into relating from, that framework of contribution. And I get to see, I know it works for me socially, but I get to see how that impacts other people when they're in a new environment with, let's say a room full of 500 strangers and they're going through Magic of Human Connection. And when the focus is on, hey, like see the best in this other person, or like notice something magnificent about the person in front of you, or say something really encouraging. Like when you put yourself in that position of being, I call it being a daymaker. So when you put yourself in that position of being a daymaker, that to me is one of the best shifts that you can make to feel more comfortable socially.
I love all that. And also I'm going to go a little bit deeper.
Let's go.
What if, I all of that you said resonates really well. And I can see that word contribute. If somebody is out there, because, we've just gone through COVID. And I think that having access to the experiences that I almost look at the 2 years, the 2019 to the 2020, maybe the year and a half that We Deepen really got to have its run before COVID came around. I saw the possibility of life. I saw the future. I saw, weaving these experiences together and people traveling through them was really lighting them up and community was really forming. However, now I'm in Maryland in this moment of time at my parents' house. And I was at dinner with a friend the other night and I looked at her and said, where is community in Maryland? Like if I stay here for a little bit, like there's no house that everybody lives in and where is everybody? So in that type of environment, people aren't necessarily even like tuned in to more of like what their gifts are. And so this word of contribution, if also you're not well rehearsed socially, and maybe because of that, there's a little bit of low self-esteem, because I do believe that our self-esteem increases in relation to others. Other people reflect back to our genius. I mean, even going back to the free square, when that came from listen to what other people are coming to. But if nobody's coming to you, then so I think some people are still struggling. Like, what is my contribution? So if someone's struggling, who am I? I'm boring. I go to work every day and just come home. And what can I contribute?
Yeah. Amazing. Let's dive into that. So one game that I love to play. So this is like before you're even interacting with other people, just the framework of how you're seeing a social situation, just starting there. So even if you're feeling more introverted or you're just in a more observant environment, I love to play this game of just noticing one thing that I think there's many ways to play this game, but it's basically coming from a positive orientation when you're looking at the people around you. So you could go through the world and think like, ooh, I don't know that person. Ooh, they're a stranger. Ooh, are they hitting on me? Like, oh, am I safe? And you could have that more fear-based or distance-based mentality. But what I really like to do, so this is before you're even sharing gifts or interacting with someone, just internally, what I love to do is I love to play this game where I say, okay, for the next 10 minutes, anyone I pass. So you mentioned the grocery store earlier, which is like a perfect example, but you can do this, like let's say you're stopped at traffic and you like look at the people in the cars next to you, or I definitely actually do it at the grocery store. I just made a little video about doing it there. And you can just notice one thing that you think is magnificent about every person that you pass. And just even getting into that framework of seeing the good in other people, like what better gift could you contribute to the world than reflecting someone's beauty or someone's divine spark or someone's magnificence. So that to me is like such a simple, but such an accessible game that anyone can play socially anytime. You can do it going through the airport. You can do it at a family dinner. You can do it anywhere. So I love to do that. For example, in this video I recently made about doing it at the grocery store, I was leaving Erewhon, and there was this family as I walked out the market, and they were just all laughing to each other, and I was playing the game. And so I just took a moment, like a micro moment, to appreciate, wow, like their laughter is so beautiful, and their connection, and someone must have just told a funny joke because they were all like laughing and giggling with each other. So I just took a micro moment of like, that is such a beautiful moment of humanity. And then afterwards, this older man who had like let his hair go gray walked by, and I just was like, that is such a good look on him. He was like really handsome with his gray hair, and I was like, that looks so good on him, and just internally like appreciated him. And then there was someone in front of me just like walking, and I couldn't see them because I was walking behind them, and they had like big baggy sweatpants on and a jacket, and they were way taller, way bigger than me. But I just was like, I'm gonna appreciate something about this guy. And I was like, I like his group. Like he's just walking with like a cool like sway. And then anyways, he turned around and his shirt said love. And I was like, I like your shirt. And my shirt said gratitude. And he's like, I love your shirt. And it was just a series of moments like that where there's something to appreciate in everyone. So that's a game that I love to play, is finding something magnificent or seeing the divine spark in someone, or just even blessing people like silently as you move through a space, just thinking, I wish the best for you. I wish the best for you. And you don't have to say anything. So these are kind of all like a little introverted, more like internal choose your own adventure ways to shift your social orientation. So does that hit on the question a little more? Because you don't have to have a specific gift. Just your goodwill is a gift to the world.
Yeah, I love that framing around it too. And even as well of, that experience of thinking it inside of your head before just, because it's essentially, it's rewiring your brain to see the gifts around you and the people as gifts themselves.
Yeah.
And then that eventually fuels you to start speaking it out into the world. And I think all of us, every single person can, I hope every single person has something that somebody once said to them that really lit them up, and to then drop into that and be like, you can be that person too. And we all have those moments. I can still remember I was a pharmaceutical rep for a couple years, and I had a company car, and it was a Dodge Magnum. It sort of looked like a hearse, and it was black as well. And so I'd always be like, oh, I like the car. I don't like the car. I'm not quite sure if I like the car. And there was this one day I was driving over the Brooklyn Bridge, and there was this woman, and she was driving the exact same car as me, and she had the music blasting, and she looked over at me and she's like, don't you love this car? And I was like, yes, I love this car. And I remember I just felt more deeply in love with my car at that moment in time. It's these really small things, and that energy is so contagious, especially right now. Like it also even just shows when we turn on if you turn on the news, watch news with caution, everybody. But if you do listen, like, you can see that the world is like, is I don't know if I want to use the word need, but would be so receptive to some more light. And you can contribute so easily by just creating one person's smile, or even just a smile inside of your body by the way that you're thinking.
Amen. Oh, I love that story too, with the girl like digging up your car and being like, don't you love it? That is so awesome. She was such a permissionary for you to be in more celebration.
It is. It's just even those smaller things. We all know when you're walking the store, I really love your pants. Like it doesn't even need to be these like really bold or big or deep compliments. It's just something so small that lights people up.
Energy. That's the thing, is that at the end of the day, it's people are feeling your positive energy coming towards them, and whatever words you use to express that's so secondary. It's the positive energy. So what you're saying, that you don't have to, come up with some beautiful, eloquent poem, like mystical, it doesn't have to be profound in any way. It's just a tiny bit of good energy goes such a long way.
Yeah. And I love also too of the suggestion of the, playing the game inside of your car. Cause I imagine people are listening to this podcast while they're driving their cars right now. And I can just envision people looking around and seeing the magnificence, and the people all around is so beautiful.
Yeah, I do. Actually, one thing I do when I'm driving is if someone cuts me off, my previous reaction, when I was younger, I'd be like, what the fuck? Like, that's unsafe. But now what I do is I go, ooh, that's unsafe. And I think, okay, I hope they get home safe. And so that's what I do when I'm driving. If someone's driving, I'm like, I hope they get home safe, like drive safe. And I kind of send a protective bubble around their car. Cause I'm like, I can do either one. I can be upset or annoyed about it, or I can just wish them a safe journey. And so that one works better for me.
Yeah. I love. Ooh, I just got feedback. I hope that's not. Do you hear that feedback? Oh, it's gone.
Okay, I didn't hear it on my end.
Great. Okay. I was even thinking, so when I was a child, my childhood friend and I'd play this game where we'd wave to people and see how many people we could get to wave back to us.
Did you call it sweet and sour?
I didn't call it anything. I would just see how many people we could get to weigh back to us. That was the game that we could play. Yeah. So these little small things. So knowing that you are fascinated by relationships and love and relationship. Actually, it's interesting to talk about how the two differ and are similar as well. But this next question, how is your love life?
So fun. Well, I first think of this question as like my love of life. Like that, my first answer is, like as a diagnostic for how is your love life is like, how is your love of life? Like, how am I feeling? Because to me, that's where everything starts. So, and I'm also really passionate about love of life energy. If I had a core subject that I would major in, it would be celebrating life and amplifying love. So those are the two energies that I'm really passionate about. So I know we'll go more into the relational space, but this really applies to me. Like to me, so spoiler alert, I have an amazing relationship with an incredible partner who is, I call him my dream. He's my dream come true. He's my best friend. I feel like he's just my treasure from the universe. So but the story's going there. But even before that starts, I feel like our relationship is great because we both totally cultivate our love of life. And then we come together and we share that. And so that I'll just say that to start. But yeah, we both cultivate our love of life so strongly. And that was something that I really noticed when we first met is, oh my gosh, it's someone who appreciates life, who's in gratitude, who's in celebration for this moment and the magnificence of this day or of existence as much as I am. Like, all right, we can really combine forces and amplify that and be in that space together. So to me, the love life answer starts with being in one's love of life. But then we can dive into relational things first. But I really want to say that because to me that's everything. Like I think there's a lot of focus culturally on being in a relationship or a relationship's going to make you happy. And I'm just such an advocate for like cultivating that energy inside of yourself. And then you can share it with other people and you can amplify it. But you can feel so fulfilled with being in that sense of love with life, with existence, with yourself, with all of humanity. And then it's so sweet when you get to share it. But I really, really consider that the foundational part.
I'd love to hear your origin story. How did you and your partner meet?
It's a really good story. Oh my goodness. This honestly I so want to share it, but it's such a good story that I can't condense it because it's truly like magical and cosmic and synchronistic and so special and weaves in this really cool way. So it would definitely make we could maybe do it on another podcast. I could try, or I could just say the very high level overview.
You got to give us something now.
Something. Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, how could I best condense this story, but without compromising any of the magic of it? Well, I'll say, so a little snippet of the origin story is that I walked by my partner on the beach, and I was dating someone else at the time, but I was just walking on the beach, and I walked, and there was lots of people on the beach, but I saw my current partner. I saw him on the beach, and my inner voice said, that's the person you're supposed to be with. He was like 20 feet away. It was like a split-second moment, and my inner voice so strongly was like, that's the person you're supposed to be with. And then a week later, I was at the beach with some friends, and they were like, all right, we're all going to leave. And my inner voice was like, don't leave. Stay here at the beach. And so I was like, okay. I was getting dark, and so I was just kind of sitting. I was on the Acro Green in Santa Monica. I was sitting there. My friends had just left, and they were like, why are you staying? And someone came over and tapped me on the shoulder after like 10 minutes of me sitting there, and it was my current partner, Johnny. And he was like, hi, do you want to do acro yoga? And I was like, oh my goodness, that's the person I saw a week ago that my inner voice was like, he's supposed to be your partner. And a lot happened between that moment and when we started dating. There were 2 years between that moment, and that's where a lot of the magic of the story happens. But that's the initial origin story, is that I just had a really, really powerful and so special, like, intuitive sense the very second I saw him. And then when we connected 2 years later, we stayed in connection on a friend level, but when we connected romantically, when the relationship that I was in at the time that we met organically ended, I was like, oh my goodness, my inner voice was so smart. Like, I could not even believe the level of our connection when we got to actually explore it as romantic partners. So it was just an incredible moment where I truly couldn't believe how smart my inner voice was in that one split second of me on the beach being like, that's your partner, but knowing nothing about this person, like never had seen him before, nothing. And then we had our very first date and have been kind of inseparable ever since, and just have the best time and love each other every day and celebrate each other every day and crack up laughing every day. And I truly feel so blessed every single day, and our love keeps expanding every day. So there's such a good story. We'll have to do another podcast on it, on like the plot between.
I would love to do a podcast with you and him on it.
Oh, that'd be so fun. Oh my gosh. He's so adorable that he doesn't really, like, he has so many great ideas to share, but he gets so bashful on camera. Like when I just taught this couples program, he helped me with every activity and brainstorm and test everything. So he's there with me on the calls, and people on the call would be like, Johnny, what do you think about this? And he'd be like, so he'd get all red. So we could see if we can get him on, because he's brilliant.
We could see, he can put a mask on his face because it's only going to be his audio.
There we go.
So I love this story, and I do think in what you shared was so powerful too, of that inner voice and listening to that inner voice, and also having fun with the inner voice, because I think sometimes too our inner voice speaks and we get to play with it, like, oh, what are you really saying? And having those adventures around, like letting the inner voice even drive your curiosity to discover what it was intending to show you or tell you. Mm-hmm. So could you speak a little bit to, I know that love is, as you said, is a subject that you would study, love in life. Now, relationship is also a little different than love. So, and where I'm coming from this context is I'm in my early 40s, and I have, I'm unmarried at this moment, and I would love to have and create family at some point in my life. And I've had many relationships along the way. And looking back at all those people, I still have love for all of them. There's love in my heart for each of them. And yet I'm not in relationship with them, in that type of relationship, or I guess always in relationship with everybody and everything, but they're not that close, intimate relationship. So for you, of being somebody who is fascinated by and has made this your life's work, how do you separate the difference of relationship and love?
Great question. The difference between relationship and love. Gosh, I don't even know. I haven't thought about that much. How I think about that, I'll try and answer it. But how I think about that is I think about how can I relate with every person in the most empowering way for both people. And that's the approach that I take to every interaction. And then some of those relationships take deeper forms. So that's the approach that I take, is how can I relate to every person I interact with in the way that is most empowering, most uplifting, most alive and fulfilling for both people. And then some of those relationships have different structures. Some of those people are my siblings. Some of those relationships are family. Some of those relationships are friends. Some of those relationships are like I'm calling customer service. So I really orient to wanting to team play with everyone that I interact with as best I can. And then I get a super deep dive experience team playing and building relationship and building love with my partner, Johnny. But I feel like that might be one of my free squares, is that I really go through the world seeing like, oh, I wish the best for you, or, like finding that space of love. So I don't know how I think of them as different. I'm sure there's cool nuances and ways to explore, but to me, they're so, they might even just be like words that we use that aren't really the reality of the experience. Like they're the English words like relationship and love. But to me, when you're actually interacting and moving through the world, you're using the skills of communication. You're using that heart synergy that you can find with different people. And that just takes different forms. Philosophical answer. But that's how I think of it off the top.
Is there anything experience that you had in your life that was the catalyst for you jumping into it? Like generally we find something that there's some experience of like maybe a negative experience, an enemy like experience that then shows us and we want to go and create something different, like to kind of combat that negative experience. Do you have a story like that in your life?
Around like romantic relationships or around anything in particular?
Well, I would say around relationships. Was there something, conflict or something that you experienced that was like the catalyst to like, I want to do this differently?
You know what? I don't know that there was one specific thing. I think a lot of what was influential for me was looking at the experiences that had the biggest positive impact on my life. And a lot of those were just immersive social experiences. So that was what really drew me to then creating in my work immersive social experiences that would have and keep spreading that same positive impact for other people. But of course, like everyone, I've definitely had experiences where, I've gone to a party and been like, this feels awkward, or where, I've socially had challenges. But I don't feel like it was one of those things, some people have that real defining moment in their life where it's like, this happened, and from then on out, my life was different. I never really had anything like that. I just was always an area I was really interested in. But I did have, I always was like super social. Like when I went to this amazing summer camp for 7 years in a row, and they would give out camp awards at the end, and they'd give out camp awards for the whole camp, like for hundreds of campers. A few campers would get like different awards. And then they give out awards in your bunk, and I would always get the social butterfly award for like the whole camp. So I just have always like, to me, I'd go to camp, I'd be like, oh my gosh, great. My mission is to like make best friends with everyone. And like, let me just like become friends with everyone. And I always just thought that was fun. So I feel like I really had, and then fun side note is that in the like cabin awards with your like cabin of 10, 1 year when I was like 12, but my counselors gave me this award. I still have it. I wish I had it here to put on screen, but it was the most likely to bear it all award because I was just always hanging out naked all the time. So I'm very proud of winning that. So I think that's just part of my free square of just, being free and comfortable and, like just comfortable in my body and in my being in that way. But, so I always was just very social and loved making friends. And then I did have an experience though, but I don't feel like it catalyzed my work, but I feel like it definitely gave me a deeper level of empathy that I'm really grateful for that I bring into my work, which is I just always made friends everywhere I went. And that was like to me, that was so natural. And I was like comfortable going anywhere, like new environments. I always made friends. And then I transferred schools. I was in this great school from first grade to fifth grade, and everyone was really tight knit in our grade. And then I transferred schools because that school ended at that year in sixth grade, and I had no friends. And I like ate lunch in the bathroom. I was like so socially isolated. And then I had like just been to camp and had all my social experiences at camp. And for some reason, I felt like so socially isolated at this new school that I went to. And like everyone had been there for many years. So I was like one of the new students. And it was such and I switched schools for 7th grade. And then I had like my normal experience of making friends everywhere I went from there on after. But that 6th grade year was so hard, and it gave me so much empathy for how bad it feels to be left out and not included, that I really feel like that experience helps me bring so much inclusion and such a sense of just including and celebrating everyone. So it's not what inspired my work as a whole, but I definitely draw on that experience from just knowing like, oh my gosh, any program I create, any experience, like I'm designing so that people don't have to feel social anxiety. They don't have to put any effort to fit in. Like the baseline of everything I create is that everyone is celebrated and included and uplifted. Like that's the baseline. And then we get to play from there. Because socially, I feel like humanity spends like 30 or 40 or 50% of its social energy just trying to get approval from other people. So part of what I love to do in my sessions is like, what if approval was the baseline? And then we got to explore the amount of connection and creativity and delight that would happen on top of that if we took all the energy that normally goes to getting approval and put it into creativity and collaboration and these other energies. So that's the backstory.
So I know that we said we would be, the goal is to have this podcast for under an hour. And I have these other 4 questions that are still running through me.
Speed round.
So the one question, like you are somebody that I observe who is, the social butterfly. And you also are somebody that I observe who's very energy conscious as well. So of being a social butterfly and also being energy conscious and having a deep relationship with a significant other, how do you reconcile the time that you spend with other people? And within this question, like, then also how do you include social media inside of there as well?
What an art. What an art. That is something I'm always learning. It's been really different these past few years during COVID, but thankfully before COVID, my life was aligned in such a way that like my work is so highly social. So I would get to have such powerful, positive social experiences teaching my sessions and traveling to really amazing events with my partner. So I'd get connection time with my partner and connection time with all the amazing people at these events and get to do my work. So those 3 stacked so nicely. It's definitely been an exploration during COVID of how to do that and how to maintain like really amazing connection and life balance online. It's kind of like all the puzzle pieces got thrown up in the air, and I'm rediscovering how to put them back together with balance. But how to maintain that life balance, I think it's probably different for everyone, but what I do is I just follow my highest excitement. That's really what I do. I just tune in, I follow my highest excitement, and that always leads me to the perfect place. So
I love that. Yeah. Cause I can see you as being a social butterfly, and generally, people want to connect with you. And so you meet them in one experience and then they want to have a separate connection. We only have limited time. So juggling of that time, and even too of then the participation in social media, when to participate and when to not participate, because it could look as though, wow, what a great gift that social media gave a social butterfly. And also it could be look at like, oh, this is draining of the gift that you've given the social butterfly.
Yeah. So actually it's funny, before, like when my work was starting to grow, I didn't have a website, and I didn't have Facebook like all through college. So, and even I made my first reel like 2 weeks ago. So I really hardly ever was online or in the online space or taking online courses or on social media. And I think that was what enabled me to really specialize in in-person experiences. But since COVID, I was like, oh, this is a whole other adventure. So I've just started to dip my toe into it. But I feel grateful that I like love my in-person life so much that I don't feel super pulled to be online or on social media. I more have to schedule that in and say like, okay, I'm going to do this. So feel grateful. It's kind of like it's a gift and a challenge, because some people are so in that space that they have all those ideas and they're very versed in social media. And for me, because I don't spend much time on it, just naturally I get to learn it. But then I'm also not as magnetized to it, which means that it's easy to step aside.
Yeah. I can relate to all of that of what you said. I like to be immersed in the in-person lifestyle. And then COVID was like, and then moving back to Maryland, I'm like, where are my people?
Yeah.
Who are some of the mentors that you look up to? Who do you learn from?
Oh my goodness. Well, I just spent a week with my family, and I honestly learned so much from my family. I have an amazing, loving family, and they really embody like the treat everyone like a best friend philosophy. They do that. Like, I was walking through Whole Foods with my aunt, and we were like singing, making songs about all the different foods we were going to try. And we were like, chips, chips, chips. And then we started like singing to these people that we were walking by, and she had purple hair, and we were complimenting her. So I feel really blessed that my family really embodies that energy of like being super welcoming and including everyone and bringing everyone in. And then I have an amazing teacher who's like my mentor, who I've studied with very in depth, like 60 hours a month pre-COVID, Marianne. And so Marianne's been my teacher for 6 years maybe, and I just learned so much from her about embodiment and empowerment and leadership and team play and communication, about saying yes, about saying no. I just learned so much from her. So Marianne has been a huge influence in my life. And aside from that, I'm just kind of always like learning everywhere and picking up things everywhere. But Marianne has been a big influence, and my family's been a big influence. And of course, when I was younger, like I was in love with Tony Robbins and still am. I so appreciate Tim Ferriss for his kind of strategic way of like looking at life. And there's just so many people that inspire me. But people that look at life with like, how could this be done in a more effective way or a more empowering way or a more uplifting way, like anyone who's orienting to that, those are the people that I tend to gravitate towards.
I love that. Miriam is definitely one of my teachers. I haven't been immersed in her teaching as you have, but I've gotten to work with her. And for those that don't know, Marianne is the creator, facilitator, guide of a program called Dance Alive. And she was, I think, one of the catalysts for the ecstatic dance movement. And I remember in 2019, We Deepen had hosted for a holiday party a Guides Award program, and we gave Marianne the Trailblazer Award. And I remember her looking at me and she said, Christina, I have been doing this work for 49 years.
Yes.
And this is the first award I've ever won. And it was just, I was so dumbfounded and also motivated because it just showed me how important the recognition and the development of what I call the human connection industry is, to create stability within inside of this. And the human connection industry, as cheesy or spiritual as it may sound, it's almost like the industry of oneness. And your family reunion, I was thinking about your family reunion. Hey, if one day you decide that your family reunion is actually an event and you could invite all of us to it, I'm down to promote that one.
Oh my gosh. Honestly, we should definitely sell tickets to it. It's so fun. Like I just had the best time the past week with my family, with my cousins, and we were all playing games and singing and like just having fun and loving each other. So yeah, I'm really grateful to not only create those spaces in the world, but that I have that space in my own life to get to be immersed in.
And I think a lot of people listening, and me for one, I've experienced a lot of conflict with inside of my family. So I initially had actually spotted Marianne and her family that she has around and was so enamored by the way. So it makes complete sense that you and her have teamed up in some sort of way or have these, shared teachings that you're passing from one to the other. Because, I generally tend to ask people the question of who their relationship role models are. But I also, and another question is like, who are your family role models? Like if you're building a family, what family would it be like your family? Or should you go out there and see what other families have actually worked through their shit? So beautiful. This last question to kind of tie it all in a bow.
I love it.
Why do you do what you do?
Oh my goodness. And I know I want to put a pin in that because I know you really wanted to do the couples question also. So I just want to remember that. And, maybe it comes in another time. But I want to honor that you were like, I want to dive into that one.
Well, the couples question, can we tie them together? I imagine there's even a way to tie them together.
Oh. Ooh, okay, cool. Yeah, we'll do like a part 1, part 2.
Cool.
Okay, so why do I do what I do? I love what I do so incredibly much. Specifically, so my work started with the magic of human connection, and then which is this in-person, immersive, heart-centered experience. And then it has grown because of people coming to the magic of human connection and saying, how do I bring this into my life? Or how do I bring this into my work? How do I create this connection with my company or my team? And people have also said, okay, I just had the most transformational connection experience with 500 strangers. How do I connect that way with my partner? So it all started with the magic of human connection. And the reason that I do it, it's truly seeing and getting to be like I always think of it like a music video, where people are like throwing money and like making it rain. I always think of like my role in Magic of Human Connection. One of them is just like throwing permission slips like all throughout the audience and just giving everyone permission to be their full selves and having that opportunity to create the space and to guide people through what for many people is the most beautiful experience of love among other humans that they've ever had. It's like the biggest honor in the world to me. So that's why I do what I do, is I truly think that it's one of the most needed things in the world is to have powerful nourishment and connection from other people in a way that is not sexual. It's just the love of humanity, like getting to experience that. It is truly one of the most nourishing and transformational things to experience that deeply, and not just with one person or not just in a moment, but with hundreds of other people, and to be in that collective field. I think it's on a personal level for the people that experience it, one of the most powerful and healing things. And globally, I feel that if enough people got to experience that energy and had that transformed sense of hope and possibility for the world, I truly feel like it's a world-changing modality. So I'm so passionate about it. I'm so in love with it. So that's why I do what I do, is I believe in it, and I've experienced the impact it has on people. And the most common feedback I get from participants is that they say that was life-changing. Like that is the most common feedback. And I think it's life-changing because we all live in this world surrounded by other humans, but we're so rarely actually experiencing the potential that can be shared with us and the people around us. So to experience it, it's not like doing a medicine journey where you're trying something new. You're around people, which we do every day, but to be around people in a transformational way is so powerful. So that's why I do what I do. And I know we were talking off the recording about my couples program. And so for that one, I created this couples program, which is Magic of Couples Connection, because people would come to Magic of Human Connection, connect with strangers, and they'd want to know how to bring that into their partnership. And so similarly to what I found with Magic of Human Connection when I couldn't find the classes that I wanted, it's similar in the relational space from what I've seen, is that there's couples therapy, there's tantra, but I was really interested in a program that would just be about, okay, what like a strengths-based program. So what would a couples program look like if it was designed to create the most love, the most joy, the most aliveness, the most spark, the most laughter with you and your partner? And it wasn't about problem solving. It wasn't about fixing anything. It was just about coming together and being in the intentional space of enjoying your connection and being facilitated through activities that help you go into deeper connection and go into more joy, with such like an effortlessness and a fun and a lightness. One of my favorite quotes from one of the couples in the program, they said, we've cried our eyes out for 90 minutes in couples therapy, and we've just laughed and been sweet and cracked up together in your class for 90 minutes. And we felt more connected after those 90 minutes than after the crying for 90 minutes in couples therapy. So if we could find deeper connection that way, that's our preferred route. So, and I think couples therapy is great. I think they're to have a great relationship, you need to know how to problem solve, and you need to know how to amplify the goodness. So I created this couples class for people to amplify the goodness. So it's an extension of Magic of Human Connection, but with your partner.
I love that. And I love that, when we first started talking, you were, I think, figuring out the name of this program. And also just what came out of your mouth was Magic of Couples Connection. And
yeah, I have to give credit to Mia Magic for that, because Mia just went through the program and she called it that, thinking it was called that, and I was like, it probably should be called that.
It probably should be called that. It sounds great. I love it. The Magic of Couples Magic of Couples Connection. Yes. And I just want to highlight what you said around, therapy is just as important as having these experiences that bring joy into your relationship, bring laughter, bring humor. As you're working through conflict, having that skill set. And oftentimes too, it's not even, people aren't even aware that this is an option for them. So thank you for offering it and putting that in the world. I do look forward to sharing that through We Deepen. I do know that you have a program coming up, this month. Most people are probably going to listen to this episode after it has already passed. But if you're listening, June 25th in Los Angeles, June 26th, which is what day of the week? Is that a Sunday?
Evening?
A Sunday evening. And if you miss the June 26th event, there will be
that's
more.
The Magic of Human Connection, which is open to everyone, not for couples. Couples can come, but it's a open for everyone experience.
And there will be another couples program that will launch as well and kick off. And this is online. So no matter where you are out in the world, you can participate in the couples program. And what a beautiful container to do to strengthen your relationship. Or even, and you might even be listening and be like, my relationship is great already. Well, it's an experience.
Yes. And a lot of people, I feel like we should almost do a part 2 that's all about the couples, because there's so much to say on that. And there's so many gems to dive into. But I'd say most of the people in the program, I don't know, a large majority of the people in the program joined because they thought, I'm in an amazing relationship, but I want to make it better, almost like preventative medicine. I want to take care of it. I want to nourish it. I want to have this beautiful experience with my love. And some of the couples were in couples therapy and were doing this in conjunction. And they talked about how powerful it was to not just be in the problems, but that sometimes by being in the joy, a problem gets solved on its own. So it's powerful if you are needing extra synergy and connection with your partner, but it is absolutely an experience if you're like, I just want to have a 2-hour session every week to connect with my partner for over 6 weeks, and just each week go into a different theme, whether that's expressing gratitude, whether that's healing touch, whether that's learning about your partner's love targets, whether that's going into play, whether that's this amazing genie activity where you get to express your desires, and it's like everyone cried and had the best experience. So each class has a different theme, and so it's really nourishing if you need extra synergy. But if you just want a beautiful experience with your partner, it's really, really fun and playful and delightful too.
Thank you for the work that you're doing out in the world. It's so fun to know that this exists and your creations, and also for anybody who does get to experience the Magic of Human Connection or the Magic of Couples Connection, what you'll notice is that Jessica is genius in creating games. These are all games that she's come up with and guiding you through them. And they're games that you can actually take back into your life and play with your friends as well. Mm-hmm. I will include your link to how people can find you in the description and your website. And also, if you're listening and you want to attend any of the programs, we will be including them on wedeepen.com as well. So definitely go check them out. Jessica, it was so much fun having you on this podcast and having this, and even you and I getting that opportunity to dive deeper together as well.
That was so fun. I feel like I know we had a time intention, but it was just so fun. So I loved getting to jam with you and have this podcast. And I feel like we have to do a part 2 that's all like romantic relationship themed, because it's like there's a whole other thread to explore.
Do we get your full love story then too?
We can maybe do the full.
Okay, great. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in to another episode of Deepen with Christina. I'm your host, Christina Weber. If you enjoyed this podcast, please like, subscribe, leave a comment, share it with a friend. It'll help more people get access to this beautiful human connection industry that is so needed in the world. Also, you can find me on social media at Christina Weber, 1B, and go to the calendar, go to wedeepen.com, check out what's happening, see the other podcasts that are being offered as well. And until next time, I love you all and enjoy your lives. Bye for now.